partner's name is Karuna O'Donnell, and she has done some meditation series for you all as well. So some of you may have met her in the past. I am the massage side of the business, and Karuna is the yoga side, meaning that's what we are, our discipline is that we're licensed or registered as. We have, our location is in Dorchester, neighborhood of Boston, in the Four Corners area, and it's a beautiful space. I'm in here now, 2,200 square feet, and we have 2 massage rooms and a large yoga studio. We're currently offering 11 classes virtually, with 4 of them being in studio on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 6 p.m. and Sundays at 9:30. You can find us on our website at fourcornersyogawellness.com. It's the number 4, not spelled out. We also have an IG and Facebook page, which you can find us at Four Corners YW on IG, and Four Corners Yoga Wellness on Facebook. So I wanted to start off by taking a moment to remind you, whenever you feel stresses in your body, you can definitely take time to ground yourself by closing your eyes, placing your hands on your thighs, and just taking deep breaths. When we do deep breathing, there's a variety of breathing mechanisms that you can do, but the one I usually try to work with is inhaling on a count of 4 and then exhaling on a count of 8. And so as I do it, I'm going to do this with you a couple times. We're going to do it for 4 or 5 rounds, but this first one I will do the breath with you, and just to give you the sense, because some people are like 1, 2, 3, 4, other people are 1, 2, 3, 4. So what I'm going to suggest is that we just close our eyes, place your hands on your thighs, let your feet be flat to the ground. Try to imagine, if you have your shoes on, you still should be able to do it, but it's nice if you can kick your shoes off. And just imagine all, basically 4 areas or 3 areas of your foot, the lateral edge, the medial edge, and the front, all just, the back, all just sitting down and rooting into the earth. We'll take a deep breath in. And holding it for 2, and then exhaling on a count of 8. And inhaling. And holding it for 2, and exhaling. Some people also find that it's easier for them to do this, so you can keep breathing in slowly on a count of 4 by placing one hand on your belly, one hand on your chest, and inhaling. Envisioning that you're filling up your belly first, and then your midsection, and then your chest, and holding it, and then exhaling it, starting through your mouth, your chest, your belly. And we'll do one last round. Some people ask if you're supposed to exhale through your mouth or your nose. Again, there's different types of breathing. For me, I typically am doing it through my nose both ways, but there are times when I need something more invigorating, and so that I'll just exhale. When I'm like really heightened with energy, I'll do my inhale and then do a just exhaling it fast. And so instead of being on a count of 8, that it just helps me to center myself or ground myself from any excitable energy that I have. So now that we've done that, I'm actually going to ask you to stand up for a moment and just get your body a little bit loose and ready for this. So by standing up, you want your feet to be over your hips over your feet, your shoulders over your hips, and so not too wide, and just do a little shake. Just let your body just shake it on out. So that's another way you can ground yourself, is just to move like this for 30 seconds. And just remembering as you do this, breathe, don't hold your breath. Just let it come on now. 30 seconds feels too long, you can do it for 15 or 20 seconds, but you're just letting everything get ready to be massaged. All right. Now we'll take a seat and we can begin. So first thing I like to do is just do a little hand wrist because we're sitting on the computer so much. So let's just clasp our hands together and not tight, just doing a little swivel. And I'll turn to the side. You can do it slowly, one way and then the other. Just thinking about doing it in circles. Sometimes it's a little, mine is left-handed, right-handed, which, how do I do this? Forwards and backwards, right to left in a full circle. And now, you can open your hands up wide. Open your fingers really wide, don't just let them be open. Open them and stretch them, okay? And close them tight and open them. And close them tight and open them. Close them tight and open them. Close them tight and open them. And do that maybe 5 times, and that's great. Now we can begin some work on our hands. So I like to just take my thumb, my right hand or left hand, whichever way you're working on. Clasp my thumb and just give a squeeze. Gentle. And give a squeeze to the finger. Give a squeeze to the middle finger. And give a squeeze to the ring finger. And then to the pinky. And you can do that to the opposite hand. Squeeze. 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 Nothing has to be too firm, because honestly, you're going to be doing this for 30 minutes, so your hands might get tired, so just doing those squeezing is nice. Yeah, next is you can take your fingers and do the rotations around. And around. Especially as we age, our joints aren't as pliable because we're not moving them like we used to, so it's best that you get in the habit of opening your hands, clenching and opening, doing rotations with your fingers in order to make sure that your joints continue to stay lubricated. Great. Next, inside of the web of your thumb is a wonderful pressure point, and so if you take your fingers and you just do a little squeezing here, it feels really nice. And you can start right where you feel the bones intersect at the V and just come straight out, pinching each time. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. You can do that in between each of the webs of your fingers as well. The best part to me is when I do my thumb, because that's the thickest muscle. We'll go to the next hand and do that 3 times. I do it on the thumb 3 times, in that web 3 times because it's such a wide space. I could do it, envisioning that I'm doing it in 3, basically 3 lines. And then in the middle, in the web of the fingers. Great. Now we'll move up the arm. We'll start with your wrist. Just taking your fingers around your wrist and just doing a gentle squeeze right up to your elbow. And that feels wonderful. A lot of times these muscles up here at the attachment of the elbow will be sensitive or feel something because those are responsible for your finger movements, extending your fingers. And so you want to give a little small, with 3 fingers, you could do just small circles around this joint. And I'm holding my arm up so you can see it, but it's nice if you could just let it either rest in your lap or on the table and just do those circles right around the joint, so adjacent to the bone, right? You can feel the soft tissue. It should feel good. You don't want to necessarily stay watching TV for 30 minutes doing this because you could bruise yourself if you did it too hard. I've had somebody tell me that they did that before, and I was amazed. You could always use your, this is your thenar eminence. You can just squeeze this way as well, and that feels good. The other way you could do it is using your fist. I'm just gonna lean forward here and just use my fist this way, or use my forearm and cross over, and just leaning down on it. And it always feels best on the meatier muscle versus the end of it is not as meaty, but it could feel nice. But we'll do the next side. Squeezing my wrist, and going right up to the elbow. And I usually do things 2 to 3 times. Even when I'm giving my massages, I usually do a stroke 2 to 4 times, just depending on what I feel. My fingers are, I don't know, just a little bit intuitive, and they can tell from the breathing, the response of the muscles, what I need to do. And so although I can't feel what the client necessarily is feeling, but I can feel how the muscle is responding. So it's the same thing now, just paying attention to what your muscle is feeling, or how your muscle is responding. If it's tight and hard, you just want to try to breathe through it and let it relax. You could do what they call skin rolling, and that's just pinching the skin. Not hard, but hard enough just to get it to make it feel a little bit more pliable. And there we go. Now we'll move up to the upper arms, the biceps into the shoulder, and because this is another well-used muscle, we'll just do a little warm-up by doing what we call effleurage strokes, and just kind of just sending your hand right on up to your shoulder and cupping it. And then we'll do the squeeze again. Squeezing is compressions, and it's just absolutely wonderful. Easy work, easy, no work. And you can get your tricep as well. Just squeezing that. Last night I worked out with my trainer and did a lot of push-ups, and this feels wonderful to me. And the other side. And right now, I'm not using anything, and you don't need to use any oil or lubricant, lotions, creams, whatever, but if you were going to be doing it on a partner, you might want to, or even on your own self, you might want to use something, but because we have clothes on, I just wasn't even thinking to use anything. Next, I will work on my shoulders. So with the shoulders, it's easier for me to work one at a time, and I have my headset on, so I'm not going to try not to move too much so that it doesn't mess up the sound. But you're going to clasp again. If you have difficulty crossing your hand up to your shoulder, there's an alternative that you might be able to do. But for right now, you could give that squeeze right up to the shoulder and on over. And on the opposite side. Now this side, because my shoulders feel super tight, you might want to stay a little longer on that. Or what you could do is we call this tapotement, pounding, but making a fist. Sorry, oh, actually it doesn't look too bad. So what we'll do is pound with your hand. So hopefully you'll be able to do that. If you're not able to do that, then you probably will have to have somebody else do it to you. So pounding a couple times, 4 times, 5 times feels really nice. Just keep your shoulders relaxed and down. Don't hunch them up because you won't feel as good. And now next we're going to work on the neck. With the neck, we're going to do the clasping again. So take your hands, clasp it behind your head, and then you're just going to squeeze. So when I squeeze, my hands are right behind the bones of my ear and on the soft tissue. And I'm just squeezing up and down to the base of my spine. I'm not sure how much space you might have between your vertebrae, between the top of your head, the bottom of your head, the top of your neck. But if you squeeze 2 to 3 times up and down, you can feel some releases. And remembering to breathe. An option is you could do what I call the C shape, and you're going to come at the adjacent to your spine, your cervical spine, and just drag it across to the front of your neck. One more time, I'm going to drag it across, and I have somewhat firm pressure here, and one last time. That pressure feels really nice. Again, you can come to the opposite side. Just keep your shoulders down and dragging it all the way down across to the front of your neck. Then coming to the front of your neck, your clavicle, your neck, your collarbone. You can use your C fingers and just starting at the outer edge, just kind of dragging it down and breathing. It's a little bit of a pin and stretch technique because you have muscles that are here in your neck. And I'm inside of that collarbone, but you could also come on the outside of the collarbone, so closer down to your second ribs. So that feels really nice too. I'm just using my fingertips now, still kind of in a C shape, but just coming right across. And now we're going to move down to the sides, the lats, obliques, your transverse abdominal muscles, and just doing that effleurage stroke that I was telling you. Just coming across, just dragging. It's just soft and comforting. It's not any pressure because it's difficult, but you can come all the way up to these muscles here. I call it your teres. I'm just doing a little bit of a drag. On this side, the same. And now, we'll come down to our hips. A lot of times this is the quads, glutes, thick muscles, using 2 hands on top of one another or as a fist on top of your wrist. You can apply more pressure, or you can use your forearms in a crisscross angle motion. So I'm just scoot my chair back a little bit. And we'll just start by, to me, the easiest way is to do the crisscross with my forearms or with my hand on top of my forearm. And I'm using my body mechanics, so I'm rocking. And by that rocking, instead of me pushing down this way, I'm using my body weight just to apply the pressure. And I'm keeping my feet still grounded to the floor. I'm not on my tippy toes or anything, so that I'm not working any muscles that don't need to be worked. In this hand, I'm going to use my fists. So putting my hand on my wrist or lower part of my back of my hand, and I'm just pushing down. That's nice, feels intense. The thigh muscle is large, so think of it in 4 strips. You know, that's why it's called a quad, because there's 4 muscles that make up the quad. So just coming on the inner, the outer. And as another option, you can do that squeezing again. And here, I just raise my foot up, but ideally I wouldn't want to, raise it up, get tired. When I say I'm raising it up, I was on my tippy toes for a second. And then the other option is doing the Topoten again on the IT bands, and that's just a little bit of pounding lightly. Doesn't have to be anything hard, but it feels nice to wake it up. And now next we're going to move down to our lower leg and foot. And so with the lower leg, compressions with using the squeezing is really great. And I'm going to come behind my calf. And I'm not going to go on my tippy toes, but I'm just going to, let me just put this down one level. That way you can see the calf more. And I'm going to, keeping my foot relaxed, do the squeeze right down to my ankle. A lot of times people with plantar fasciitis or pain in their foot is due to calf tension. Your calf muscles might be tight, so just try to keep them loose when you're doing this. And you can do it from the front as well. And you can do, again, the pounding to movement along the back. The front is more bony, so I wouldn't recommend doing it on the front of the shin, but on the sides is fine. You can do the other leg. Lighter to me. I must have had a lot of tension that I didn't know. And lastly, we'll move down to the feet. Well, not lastly, but down on the feet. A lot of people feel it in the arch of their foot. What you can do is crisscross your thumbs over one another and just do that as a double compression, and that adds the pressure so you won't really feel like you're working so hard ideally. And again, notice that I'm rocking my body. That's using extra pressure, and it's less work. It doesn't feel like I'm really pushing with my thumbs. You could do it with your fist, and using your knuckles flat or using your knuckles pointed, and you'll feel that straight through. You can do what I call combing, just using your knuckles coming down the foot, and that feels great. And your toes are just like your fingers, need to be stretched, so you can take your hands. If you're able to get your foot up on your knee, this is great. If you can't do it, I'll show you an option. But put your fingers in between your toes and roll your feet around, your ankle around, with your fingers in between your toes, and using this other hand, using the thumb into that arch and across the ball of the foot. Feels really nice and will release any tension that you're having. Make sure to come up around the ankle, because your calf muscles attach it around on this malleolus, around the edge of the ankle, okay? So you can keep doing that. And then take your toes and just do the range of motion, small circles going around and around, around and around, around and around. And I usually do it, like I said, 3 times. You know, you can do one way versus the other. You can bend them forward and bend them backwards. Flexion and extension, because our toes get stuck, and sometimes they'll get that bent crook to it if we're not moving them in the way that we need to. So let's do our other foot. As an option, if you're not able to get your foot up on your knee, you could sit in a chair or have a stool in front of you and raise it. And if you're still not, because some people just have really long legs and you're not able to get down there, you're going to have somebody else do it for you. But I'm going to hold my foot up on the chair right now to show you that you could do the same work of the range of motion by putting your foot on a chair and rolling your toes around and doing the flexion and extension. And you can, but it's a little bit harder to do for me, to do the scooping or, excuse me, combing of your foot in this position. So I'm gonna just take it across again and I'm gonna do compressions on this foot and just squeezing. So using my hands here and just squeezing them together. If you have bunion, sometimes that won't feel as good, but other times if you just do small movements around there with your fingers, fingertips, instead of using, the whole compression movement, it might feel a little bit better. Sometimes you have to explore the pain and see if it's really, really painful, and if it is, go lighter, go slower, because sometimes it just needs to be touched. And coming around the ankle again, both on the inside and the outside, just making sure to wake that up, move my ankle around in a circle, both ways. It's wonderful. And that's great. On the last part that I was thinking that I don't usually do a face massage to myself too often, but there are times when I feel like just, overwhelmed. So I find that I just want to touch my face. I'm going to take my glasses off just to show you. So if you take your hands together and just warm them up by doing a little friction rub for a moment or two. And just place your hands gently over your eyes and just feel the heat, and just take 3 breaths in and out slowly. And now what I'm going to do is, starting at my hairline, just use my fingertips and just doing a little bit of dragging around my hairline. So that dragging was with a little bit of pressure. It shouldn't feel like work. So the pressure that I'm applying, your fingers should not be getting tired from. And it feels very relaxing to me. You can then begin to do, your fingers can go one on top of the other, and that can give you more pressure if you need it. You can do small circles on your forehead, or any area, but we're going to do the forehead. You have muscles in your scalp and head, and that's how we're able to make our facial expressions. Right at my temple, I'm doing this gently, not too firm, but I'm going from the center, the soft tissue part, and then I'm coming out to the bone. That's the temporalis bone and the frontal bone. The orbital is adjacent. I'm coming right on the bone and doing the circles. That feels wonderful. Coming on my eyebrows, starting at the top, at the center, the medial, and just tracing my eyebrows right down to the edge. And I do that twice. And that feels really good. Sometimes pinching my eyebrows. That's another option. That feels interesting and good. So I'm pinching the tissue versus the bone. This is an acupressure point here, right in between, that you could hold. I don't remember what it's for, but you could hold that and just slowly breathe and see what you're experiencing when you hold it there. Come down and trace it to your nose. And don't be afraid to touch the fleshy part, that's this cartilage. And tracing it. And coming down to your mouth. And I'll use the C shape again. And just thinking about this muscle. It's a circle, so I'm just coming around 3 times. Now onto my chin, and I'm just gonna squeeze my chin. Squeeze it right on out to my jawline. I have my thumbs right up underneath my chin, underneath my jawline, and I'm just squeezing right on out, right out to the edge of my jaw. And now I'm going to come up. I'm close to the ear and the spot where some people feel that they talk about having TMJ or joint pain in this temporomandibular joint. And I'm just going to use my fingers again. I like to give a little extra pressure myself, but if you don't need that extra pressure, just do one finger. Just slowly, don't clench your jaw, just keep it slightly open and do small circles around. And then come back close to the ear, that fleshy part of your ear, and just go around tracing the bone. And keep going around and tracing the bone right back up to the temporalis muscle, and now we'll touch our scalp. So this is just going to be gentle. I mean, using your fingertips to me feels the best, but you can use the flat of your palm too in doing this. Just remember to keep your neck relaxed. And just think about covering every inch of your head. That's why brushing your hair is stimulating for the scalp. If you don't have a brush, comb doesn't really do it. So just use your fingertips. And maybe before you're going to wash your hair, just do or not necessarily before because your hands might be tired, but just do a vigorous scrub to your head. And it really lightens and loosens the muscles in there, especially behind the ears and above the ears. Feels fabulous. And come back down again. The last thing that you can do on your face is just tapping. There's actual technique, or I don't know if I call it a modality, but tapping is something that I've heard a lot about that will release or focus you, but I've never done any training, but I know just lightly tapping my hands, my fingertips on my forehead, around my eye, lobe, my jawbone, my cheekbones, and my head. It feels wonderful. And the last thing I want to tell you about is just movement in general. Since you're sitting a lot, most likely at home, even if you have kids, you can remind them in between their classes. I'm sure the teachers probably do this, but standing up, you want to make sure you are moving your hips. I found in the beginning of the pandemic, I was sitting a lot at the table, and I was not used to sitting, and my hip flexors were like feeling so achy and creaky. So if you stand on up and just do a little hip swivel, going around, try to keep your body upright and not bending over and doing it. You can do it that way, but to me, keep your body upright and just envision going around in a circle to the left and to the right 5 times each. Envision and do it. If you visualize things, your body will begin to see what they're supposed to be doing, and you'll be able to get on over. And the next movement that I would say to do, because if you're sitting, is to do leg extensions. So I'm going to just turn to the side here, just lifting your leg, and just give you a little bit of movement, and you'll feel a little stretch to your hamstrings. And you don't have to go high. You just need to go high enough that you feel a little something in your glutes or somewhere in your back of your leg. If you do that 5 times on each leg, that's wonderful. And shoulder shrugs is another thing that we will do. So just bring your shoulders straight up to your ears, hold it up there, and then just let it fall down. Bring it straight on up, and let it fall down. Straight on up, and then fall down. Now you could do it fast, but just make sure you don't shrink your head, your neck down into it, because then you're activating your neck muscles, it'll make you tired. Okay? And the other is just the stretching of the arms. I was doing it, I was waiting for all of you to come online. It's just opening up my arms to the top, letting my shoulders stay low, meaning I'm not hunching them up, I'm just letting them stay down, and coming back down. And breathing again. This time I'm going to grab one wrist. I'm going to take the wrist of my opposite hand that I'm bending. You just bend over. And when you bend over, just think about, we call this heart openers. Just look up to the sky and that will help you to open up your chest. And slowly doing it to the other side. Just breathing. And then clasping your hands behind your back. I'm doing again a little heart opener by just, if you can't clasp your hands behind your back, if you can clasp your hands on behind up at the upper part of your forearms, and just bending over backwards, and lifting your chin up to the sky. And slowly coming back up. That is about it for me. I do want to mention one more thing though, that I didn't do this, but I did it recently in a yoga class, and it was kind of cool and different. There's so many muscles in our bodies, and tendons and ligaments. The tendons connect the muscles to the bones, and ligaments bone to bone. But your eyes, you can close your eyes and envision that you're going around in a circle slowly, and think about moving your eyes with your, like that you're looking up to the left, and then think about looking up to the right, and then to the left, and to the right. And it'll feel weird to you. Why? It's because you're exercising a muscle that you haven't done. And probably in however long, you know, it's kind of like the same thing of looking cross-eyed, you know. Parents used to tell us when we were little, don't do that, your eyes will stay like that, but that's an exercise for your eyes. So I recommend that you close your eyes and look up to the ceiling, look down to the floor, look to the right, look to the left. You can do that as well as a part of your grounding. So